Mantra 17, translation. This is a very beautiful set of two verses, and it's a very nice way of culmination. It's a nice culmination of a course as well as of this book, the way it is ending. It has been very metaphysical descriptions up until now. It has become devotional over the last few verses, and now it is completely about surrender to Lord. Raising both the hands and saying, Lord, I surrender to you. It's a very beautiful ending to this whole book. So let's read today. Translation. Let this temporary body be burnt to ashes, and let the air of life be merged with the totality of air. Now, O my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices, and because you are the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I have done for you. When do we need this prayer?
At the time of death.
At the time of death. When can death come?
Anytime.
Okay, so let's quickly read the purport. It's a longish purport. The next purport, I think mantra 18 is a bit shorter, I thought. Yeah, mantra 18 purport is a bit short. Let's read this. Who wants to read? Okay, book hai, okay. Dinavasan Prabhu, read loudly and nicely.
The temporary material body is certainly a foreign dress. The Bhagavad Gita 2.20 clearly says that after the destruction of the material body, the living entity is not annihilated, nor does he lose his identity. The identity of the living entity is never impersonal or formless. On the contrary, it is a material dress that is formless and that takes shape according to the form of indestructible person. No living entity is originally formless, as is wrongly thought by those with a poor fund of knowledge. This mantra verifies the fact that the living entity exists after the annihilation of the material body.
Okay, what are the points?
Soul exists eternally.
Soul has a
Form.
Soul exists eternally. Soul has a form. Yeah.
and the material body represents that form.
Sorry?
The material body represents that form.
Mental body represents that form. I'm not sure about that.
That takes the shape according to the form of the indestructible person.
Okay, that is what meant. But the eternal form of the soul is not dependent on the material. I know that you know that. Okay. Also, it is mentioned that no living entity is originally formless. So originally we had a material body. Yeah. So originally we had a spiritual. So which means our spiritual body has a form. Siddha Deha. There is a form. The goal of our sadhana in Krishna consciousness, in devotional life, is for all of us to realize that Siddha Swarup, or the Siddha form, which is for some people it will be being a gopi in Vrindavan. For someone else it may be a friend of Lord Krishna and Radha. Somebody it may be a servant of a parent. It may be loving Krishna in a parental mood. That may be the eternal Siddha Deha, to serve Krishna in the role of a parent. For some of them in Vaikuntha, it may be that eternal form is a servant in Dasyaras. So all of us have our eternal forms because of our association with matter and upadhi, the false identities that we have developed coming from our false ego. Then we start identifying with this temporary form. By the process of Krishna consciousness, all those impurities are dissolved. Ultimately, Prabhupada says the mind is also dissolved. The mind must be dissolved. The material intelligence is also dissolved. And then the false ego is also dissolved. And then the Siddha Swarup manifests in its pristine glory, fully. All this is described very nicely in Jaiva Dharma. If you get any chance to read it, it's a very inspiring book. I want to read it all over again. Have you read? Anyone who has read Jaiva Dharma? Read? Very inspiring book, isn't it? It gets very technical as you go further and further. Anuchedat, whatever it is called. Keep going. Very technical. But if you have a penchant for more technical stuff, then keep reading. If you don't have, it's a good story at least. From the beginning to the mid chapter, it's good, interesting reading. It talks about the lives of devotees. It's like a story. That's a beauty. It's like a story which explains the tattva. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has beautifully written it in a story form for all of us to understand. Okay, let's read further.
In the material world, material nature displays wonderful workmanship by creating varieties of bodies for the living beings according to their propensities for sense gratification. A living entity who wants to taste stool is given a material body that is quite stable for eating stool,
Suitable.
that of a hog. Similarly, one who wants to eat the flesh and blood of other animals may be given a tiger's body equipped with suitable teeth and claws. But the human being is not meant for eating flesh, nor does he have any desire to taste stool, even in the most aboriginal state. Human teeth are so made that they can chew and cut fruit and vegetables, although there are 2 canine teeth, so that primitive humans can eat flesh if they so desire. But in any case, the material bodies of all animals and men are foreign to the living entity. They change according to the living entity's desire for sense gratification. In the cycle of evolution, the living entity changes bodies one after another. When the world was full of water, the living entity took an aquatic form. Then he passed to vegetable life, from vegetable life to worm life, and worm life to bird life, from bird life to animal life, and from animal life to human form. The highest developed form is the human form when it is possessed of full sense of spiritual knowledge. The highest development of one's spiritual sense is described in this mantra. One should give up the material body, which will be turned to ashes, and allow the air of life to merge into the eternal reservoir of air. The living being's activities are performed within the body through the movements of different kinds of air, known in summary as pranavayu. Pranavayu. The yogis generally study how to control the airs of the body. The soul is supposed to rise from one circle of air to another until it rises to the Brahma Randra, the highest circle. From that point, the perfect yogi can transfer himself to any planet he likes. The process is to give up one material body and then enter into another. But the highest perfection of such changes occur only when the living entity is able to give up the material body altogether, as suggested in this mantra, and enter into the spiritual atmosphere where he can develop a completely different type of body, a spiritual body which never has to meet death or change.
Okay. You see people changing bodies all the time. What is your realization when you read this?
Like you can compare your, like when you read all this, you know that the other part of life is here. You sort of if you come to realize that, I mean, it is very temporary. In a short span, like in a few minutes, they just sort of pass away without even knowing that they are anything else. And some of them pass away and they're not even consciousness, so they sort of under medication that they slowly pass through without any pain. Their realization is they shouldn't be in pain, but when for us we should be in full consciousness. Like when we know the other part, we should be in full consciousness so that we can remember Krishna. For them, this pain is so bad that they don't want to remember the pain, and their family members. It is much better if they are sort of unconscious rather than conscious. So you can understand what difficulty they go through at the end of, at the end stage. And they become so restless.
It's easy to say, like as it is said in Hani Hani Bhutani, Gachanti Himalaya. Every time we see the death, but when somebody dies in the family also for some time, like Smashan Bonai, it will be there, we realize, but after sometimes like everything will be okay and we will be doing the normal things. It's very hard to remember. Like at the same time, like when health is good, it's easy to remember, but health is not good, that's not easy. So we should take it seriously. We can do now, like do as much as we can.
It's interesting, I'm just thinking about what he said. When health is good, it is easy to remember. When health is bad, it is
Easy
difficult
not to remember. Do things.
do
Easy to
things.
do things.
Do things. Okay. I'm just thinking that right now, for me, Krishna consciousness seems to be best when whenever material nature is treating very badly. Those are the best times that I think I get that kind of sobriety. Otherwise, हंसी मजाक में जिंदगी चला जाता है. So it's a paradox. In one sense, what you're saying is, that's perfectly correct.
Than remembering like the, and what I mean is like to do services.
To do services, yeah.
It's easy when your
It's
health
easy.
is good.
Yeah.
I don't know about remembering like how much I.
That's why I use the word paradox.
Yeah.
When we are healthy, then we can do services. But when everything is going well in life,
Yeah, that time it's.
then we generally don't think of Krishna as much.
Yeah.
But when all other doors shut, then you think of it's almost, then you can't do anything what to do.
And as it is said in Mugadamana Stotra, how difficult death time is.
Yeah.
And so better to do as much as you can so that Krishna will help you at that time to remember.
The moment we become serious, we start with pride. Then we really try to, then nature humbles us, material world humbles us, we come down. But then again things start getting better. That is when the problem comes. Again we start thinking, maybe I'm so great, I came through such troubled times successfully. That is the problem. That is how it entices you, it cheats you, tricks you. Again it gives you that sense of superiority. Again it beats you. So that is how material nature controls us. By rewarding us and by creating desires within us. And based on that desires, then we suffer, enjoy. Keep coming back to this material world, taking newer and newer bodies with newer identities. Oh, I am a successful person. No, I am not unsuccessful. So next lifetime I will become very successful. An unsuccessful person also wants to come back to become successful. A successful person doesn't have any problem in the material world. He comes back to the material world anyway. Problem kya hai? First class hai. I am a successful man. I know the art of success. I'll come back again and succeed. Somebody said, that मैंने a company खड़ा किया है. Even I have built this whole empire. Even if you raise it to the ground, I have the ability to build it from scratch again. Like that. I remember some industrialist had said that. Who was it? Ambani? Who? Ford. Ford. Somebody said that. I can build it back from scratch again. So with these desires, one goes again, one comes back to this material world. So this is called samsara sagara. Rather, so Prabhupada is cautioning us. He's saying that the human form should not be wasted. Constantly chasing these desires should not be wasted. It should be utilized in constantly meditating on what our anarthas are and how they are binding us in this material world, how they are making us behave, how they are making us do our various activities, and then become serious about changing ourselves. So Prabhupada is also saying that it talks about prana here, prana vayu. So all the activities are performed within the body through the different kinds of air, which are called as prana vayu. So Prabhupada is giving little bit of Kundalini yoga. I am no expert on that. Whereas, but it suffices for our understanding that there is some vayu which is there, life air, and the yogis have the power to take it up from here and then escape the body from here. If you read the Journey Home book by Radhanath Swami, he talks about one such person who is doing a live demonstration of going outside his body, doctor declaring dead, everyone is watching, after some time again comes inside, like that. So yogis have this kind of a power to go up and down, but the real emancipation, if you like, is when one can go out of the clutches of the three modes of material nature. Just doing this is fine. You are able to manipulate to some extent through yogic powers. You are able to come out of this shell, but then you are still inside the large cosmic anda. That shell cannot be broken by that process. That shell can only be broken by the process of devotion, where the Lord Himself will come, send His messengers and take us out from here. So, there is no point in just leaving this body, having an ability to leave this body at will and come back. Still, we are still doing all that within the tiny earth. Maximum we may be able to do it within the 14 planetary systems. But beyond that, there is a hard shell. What are the three hard shells? Mind. Many times more is that is intelligence. Then false ego is the thickest layer. Oh, I am able to go up and down from my body. That itself is a false ego. Just imagine, if one has that ability, how long will it take for the person to get rid of that false ego? For our small abilities, we have so much false ego. If somebody had this ability in this room, we'll obviously tell the whole world, I have this ability to go outside my body. All of you come and watch. I will demonstrate tomorrow. And then when people start garlanding us with lemons and coconuts, putting agarbatti and dandavats to us, then the mind will say, after all, it's not bad. I am Guru. I must say. People will accept you as Guru. So that is then Maya will bind you like that, by giving you these yogic powers. Obviously, therefore Prabhupada cautioned us never to chase these Ashtasiddhis. Now, coming to the topic of changing bodies, then there is this article in Dandavats. Okay. Again, I would like all of you to read it if you can. A son cares for his mother, something like that.
Yes.
You read that?
At the last minute when she's about to leave the body.
No. Yeah. Yes and no. The full life story is there. This is about a Maharaj. This is about one Maharaj. I forgot. Bhakti Keshav. If you go to Dandavats.
Starting में है.
Huh?
It's on the front. हाँ.
Starting मतलब नीचे है थोड़ा.
Yeah.
5-6 rows below. So it's an amazing article of how Maharaj's mother, when Maharaj was, he was only child of his parents. Okay. And then Maharaj says that he explored. He was in Hollywood, some theatre, actor, that line, film line or something like that. Hollywood actually, he said, yeah. So he saw that, I don't want to be like these people. He said the third class people are there in the industry. I don't want to be like these people. He said I extricated myself from that. I was looking for alternate career. And then I came into music. And that's how he came into that hippie circles, music circles and all that, like that. And then from there also he found the same problem till the time he found that someone, that Haight Ashbury. Haight Ashbury, where Prabhupada, how he met Prabhupada, and then how he got very inspired with the teachings of Prabhupada, surrendered full time, said this is what I want to do in my life. And he told his parents disowned him straight away. To that extent that they rarely spoke to him throughout their lives after that. Like that. That's very big. Most of life they didn't speak to him. So, like that. Disowned him, only child. Okay. he served Prabhupada. His father left. But when his father left, his father was happy with what he was doing. So he doesn't mention much. But then the rest of the story then starts with the mother. It's a long article about the mother. You read that. Essential point is that how his mother, being a staunch Christian, lady, staunch Christian in the sense very fanatic about that only that is the real truth. And anybody who worships a form, that too he said Prabhupada is my guru. He said that too a human person you are worshipping, that means Satan has got you. And his mother genuinely believed that Satan has got him. So she avoided him, thinking that that's the right thing to do. That Satan has got him, I should avoid him. That's how when I will go back to God, she's thinking. By avoid my son. Okay. So that is too much, no? You see. But and then it talks about how she held his view, harbored his view. Deterioration of his mother's health, one after the other. But she being very stubborn in her views, up until, of course, the last point of her life, last few days or months of her life, when he went and cared for her repeatedly, for so many times, and all other people around the community also saw him. Obviously he is being humble there, but obviously he cannot escape the effulgence of such a sannyasi. Keshav Bharati Maharaj. Yeah. So nobody can escape the effulgence of such a servant of Prabhupada. No? So obviously people got attracted in the neighborhood. He started preaching as he was cooking for his mother and doing all services to her. He took permission from Prabhupada and then went from Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and Prabhupada had anything being left. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj and other Sivaram Swami. And then how he cooked, how he cultivated people all around. And then one day suddenly she's just by observing him, she said, okay, may I help you wash the plates? That was the first time he said she ever spoke to me something which is connected to her. In that time she did. And then immediately he jumped at the offer. He said, yes, please. And then she says from there, just by washing that plate, that triggered her devotional life so much that eventually, she then started telling him to continue Prabhupada's jukebox. Continuously she wanted to hear Prabhupada chanting. Continuously she only wanted to hear Prabhupada chanting. To that extent. And then she wanted him to keep on, he kept on reading stories to her. Initially she dismissed it. What is this you are reading? But he said, I continued reading for her. Krishna stole butter, covered, this, that. One full reading he did. And then finally one day she said, she didn't comment anything. Initially she said, what is this? All this is, sounds nice, but towards the end she said, it is so beautiful. And then he said, Mother, can I read all over again? Yes, please do. And then he said, I found out one day when she was like, he actually describes, I think her mouth was open wide and she was just concentrating on that. That mother who had not, throughout life, she had been against her. He stopped somewhere and she was concentrating eagerly what happens next, like that. And then she said, now she got ruchi for Krishna Katha. Then immediately he talked to Shivaram Swami, who initiated her with the name, some name, Ladli Rani, something like that. Lad Rani, something like that. Okay? And then he initiated her with that name. And then till the end, how she, till the last minute, she was hearing Prabhupada chanting and always hearing Krishna Katha. Even when other people, Maharaj was giving classes in his house, she will hear on the deathbed as her cancer became worse and worse and she left. So it's a very beautiful rendition. You read the article for the real emotions. I'm not able to communicate so well, but so this is the journey of a soul. So this is the highest perfection of life, where you don't have to take another material body again. And then she told her son that I'm proud of whatever you are doing. Don't ever stop doing this for anything in this world. Like that she said. And Maharaj was very happy with that comment. One who stopped disowned him throughout his life, towards the end she is only telling him like this. Don't stop doing this for anything else. And Maharaj could see that the Lord was reciprocating with her. And then after her death, when the funeral happened, then he said that sometime the local person said that she was a very saintly person. A very saintly person. The local parish Catholic disagreement that also. So this is what Krishna consciousness does. So a person who practices Krishna consciousness seriously cannot go unnoticed in society. So this is the perfection of life, not just to come out and then go inside, come out, go inside. All these are yogic tricks. But real Krishna consciousness is what this lady did. With a sincere heart, then she developed a taste, Vasudeva Katha Ruchi, and then developed desire for Krishna Katha. And with that desire, you can only go back to God. Because once Krishna Katha Ruchi comes, then we definitely are going back to God. Till the time that Ruchi doesn't come, then we will be bound with the material world. When Ruchi comes, then we are back. Let's read further from here. Here in the material world,
Here in the material world, material nature forces the living entity to change its body due to this different desires for sense gratification. These desires are represented in the various species of life, from germs to the most perfected material bodies, those of Brahma and the demigods. All of these living entities have bodies composed of matter in different shapes. The intelligent man sees oneness not in the variety of the bodies, but in the spiritual identity. The spiritual spark, which is part and
read a little bit
parcel.
faster.
The spiritual
Spark.
which is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is the same whether he is in a body of a hawk or in the body of a demigod. The living entity takes on different bodies according to his pious and vicious activities. The human body is highly developed and has full consciousness. According to Bhagavad Gita, the most perfect man surrenders unto the Lord after many lifetimes of culturing knowledge.
When this lady surrendered, in the last stages of her life itself she could surrender. She didn't have to wait for many. That's because of her son. Prabhupada's mercy on
The culture of knowledge reaches perfection only when the knower comes to the point of surrendering unto the Supreme Lord Vasudeva. Otherwise, even after attaining knowledge of one's spiritual identity, if one does not come to the point of knowledge, knowing that the living entities are eternal parts and parcels of the whole and can never become the whole, one has to fall down again in the material atmosphere. Indeed, one must fall down even if he has become one with the Brahmajyoti. As we have learned from the previous mantras, the Brahmajyoti emanating from the transcendental body of the Lord is full of spiritual sparks that are individual entities with a full sense of existence. Sometimes these living entities want to enjoy their senses, and therefore they are placed in the material world to become false lords under the dictation of the senses. The desire for lordship is the material disease of the living being, for under the spell of sense enjoyment, he transmigrates through the various bodies manifested in the material world. Becoming one with the Brahmajyoti does not represent mature knowledge. Only by surrendering unto the Lord completely and developing one's sense of spiritual service does one reach the highest perfectional stage. In this mantra, the living entity prays to enter the spiritual kingdom of God after relinquishing his material body and material air. The devotee prays to the Lord to remember his activities and the sacrifices he has performed before his material body is turned into ashes. He makes this prayer at the time of death with full consciousness of his past deeds and of the ultimate goal. One who is completely under the rule of material nature remembers the heinous activities he performed during the existence of his material body, and consequently he gets another material body after death. The Bhagavad Gita confirms this truth. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. Thus the mind carries the living entity's propensities into the next life. Unlike the simple animals who have no developed mind, the dying human being can remember the activities of his life like dreams at night. Therefore, his mind remains surcharged with material desires, and consequently he cannot enter into the spiritual kingdom with the spiritual body. The devotees, however, develop a sense of love for Godhead by practicing devotional service to the Lord. Even if at the time of death a devotee does not remember his service to the Lord does not forget him. This prayer is given to remind the Lord of the devotee's sacrifices. But even if there is no such reminder, the Lord does not forget the service rendered by his pure devotee. The Lord clearly describes his intimate relationship with his devotees in Bhagavad Gita. Even if one commits to the abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to consider saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. He quickly becomes righteous and attain lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. O son of Pritha, those who take the shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants, as well as Shudras, workers, can attain the supreme destination. How much more this is so of the righteous Brahmanas, the devotees and the saintly kings. Therefore, having come to this temporary miserable world, engage in loving service unto me. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains these verses in this way. One should regard a devotee of Krishna to be on the right path of saints, even though such a devotee may seem to be Shuduracha, a person of loose character. One should try to understand the real purport of the word Suduracha. A conditioned soul has to act for double functions, namely for the maintenance of the body and again for the self-realization. Social status, mental development, cleanliness, austerity, nourishment, and the struggle for existence are all for the maintenance of the body. The self-realization part of one's activities is executed in one's occupation as a devotee of the Lord, and one performs actions in that connection also. One must perform these two different functions along parallel lines, because a conditioned soul cannot give up the maintenance of his body. The proportion of activities for maintenance of the body decreases, however, in proportion to the increase in devotional service. As long as the proportion of devotional service does not come to the right point, there is a chance for an occasional exhibition of worldliness. But it should be noted that such worldliness cannot continue for long, because by the grace of the Lord, such imperfections will come to an end very shortly. Therefore, the path of devotional service is the only right path. If one is on the right path, even an occasional occurrence of the worldliness does not hamper one in the advancement of self-realization. The facilities of devotional service are denied the impersonalists because they are attached to the Brahmajyoti feature of the Lord. As suggested in the previous mantras, they cannot penetrate the Brahmajyoti because they do not believe in the personality of Godhead. Their business is mostly word jugglery and mental speculation. Consequently, the impersonalists pursue a fruitless labor, as confirmed in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. All the facilities suggested in this mantra can be easily obtained by constant contact with the personal feature of the Absolute Truth. Devotional service to the Lord consists essentially of 9 transcendental activities: hearing about the Lord, glorifying the Lord, remembering the Lord, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, worshipping the Lord, offering prayers to the Lord, serving the Lord, enjoying friendly association with the Lord, and surrendering everything unto the Lord. These 9 principles of devotional service, taken all together or one by one, help a devotee remain constantly in touch with God. In this way, at the end of life, it is easy for devotee to remember the Lord. By adopting only one of these 9 principles, the following renowned devotees of the Lord were able to achieve their highest perfection. By hearing of the Lord, Maharaj Parikshit, the hero of Srimad Bhagavatam, attained the desired result. Just by glorifying the Lord, Sukadeva Goswami, the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, attained his perfection. By praying to the Lord, Akrura attained the desired result. By remembering the Lord, Prahlad Maharaj attained the desired result. By worshipping the Lord, Prithu Maharaj attained perfection. By serving the lotus feet of the Lord, the goddess of fortune Lakshmi attained perfection. By rendering personal service to the Lord, Hanuman attained the desired result. Through his friendship with the Lord, Arjuna attained the desired result. By surrendering everything he had to the Lord, Maharaj Bali attained the desired result. Actually, the explanation of this mantra and of practically all the mantras of the Vedic hymns is summarized in the Vedanta Sutra and properly explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is a mature fruit of Vedic tree of wisdom. In Srimad Bhagavatam, this particular mantra is explained in the questions and answers between Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami at the very beginning of their meeting. Hearing and chanting of the signs of God is the basic principle of devotional service. The complete Bhagavatam was heard by Maharaj Parikshit and chanted by Sukadeva Goswami. Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Sukadeva because Sukadeva was a great spiritual master than any great yogi or transcendentalist on his time. Maharaj Parikshit's main questions was, what is the duty of every man specifically at the time of death? Sukadeva Goswami answered, everyone who desires to be free from all anxieties should always hear about, glorify and remember the personality of Godhead, who is the supreme director of everything, the extinguisher of all difficulties and super soul of all living
This is a nice
entities.
verse to buy heart. How many of you know this verse? It's a very beautiful verse to buy heart. तस्मात् भारत सर्वात्मा भगवान ईश्वरो हरि श्रोतस्य येति तव्यस्त स्मर्तव्यश्च इच्छता अभयम. So if you get a chance, then buy heart this verse. In fact, the first chapter of second canto, all verses.
Second
Sorry?
chapter. First canto. Second chapter.
Second canto first.
First chapter of second canto, I said.
Second canto.
Second canto, first chapter. Or first chapter of second canto. Okay. So first chapter of second canto, almost all the verses are worth by heart, leading up to Etam Nirvidyamanana, Michatama Kutamaya, that one. Harer Nama, Anukirtanam. What is the duty of a man about to die? It's a very beautiful section. One after the other, what nectar Sukadeva Goswami is giving. Yeah, you go on.
So-called human society is generally engaged at night in sleeping and having sex, and during the day time in earning as much money as possible, or else in shopping for family maintenance. People have very little time to talk about the personality of Godhead or to inquire about Him. They have dismissed God's existence in so many ways, primarily by declaring Him to be impersonal, that is, without sense perception. But in the Vedic literature, whether the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, it is declared that the Lord is a sentient being and is supreme over all other living entities. His glorious activities are identical with Himself. One should therefore not indulge in hearing and speaking of the rubbish activities of the worldly politicians and so-called big men in society, but should mold his life in such a way that he can engage in godly activities without wasting a second. Sri Ishopanishad directs us towards such godly activities. Unless one is accustomed to devotional practice, what will he remember at the time of death, when the body is dislocated, and how can he pray to the Almighty Lord to remember his sacrifices? Sacrifice means denying the interest of the senses. One has to learn this art by employing the senses in the service of the Lord during one's lifetime. One can utilize the results of such practice at the time of death.
Anything? Let's go.
Prabhupada is emphasizing a lot about how performing devotional activities, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, how different devotees have achieved perfection. So we don't have to really perfect all 9 principles, just one of them is good enough.
Sacrifice means deny the interest of senses.
Beautiful, no?
Very nice.
That was my favorite in this whole. When I read this, I thought I should put it in some. It is one of those which you can put on the door.
Yes.
Sacrifice means denying the interest of the senses. Senses are saying, I want. Sacrifice means, no, you will not have it. So it's like amazing.
But also next part is important, engaging those senses in
Correct.
Lord's service. Otherwise, what do we do by night?
Exactly. Exactly.
Then what do? We cannot deny just like that. If we don't have other engagements.
Okay, anything else? So therefore, in this short lifetime, now, we have been advised to become serious so that we come to a stage where we have Ante Narayana Smriti. As I mentioned before, I don't know whether in the earlier class, all of us should be eager to study Bhagavatam at such a pace that we are able to properly study the 10th canto in this. A wonderful opportunity that all of us are having, that Keshav Prabhu is giving us because of his very merciful nature. It's a sacrifice. He comes here on Mondays and Tuesdays, driving from the farm, to come back, to go to the farm and once at least, even once for me, in Gujarati we say Hanja Gagdi Gaya. So like that, Kamar ek arti pasli, becomes one. Just to go once to the farm and come. 1.5 hours of drive. He is doing that since last. I came to Melbourne in 2005, and before that Bhakti Shastri was already over. 2 years, 3 years. 2002 or 2003. Of course, that time he was living here only, but last I think 8 years, who's a big in the farm, he used to come last 8 years. 8 years of every week going back and forth from the farm. Just to give class. Sometimes in the Bhakti Vedanta class which is going on right now, there are 5 people sitting. Sometimes 6, sometimes a handful of people are sitting. But still he does that. So this is what a sacrifice. It's amazing. And of course he says that I come here because I get some association. Humility, saying that. But such a commitment to teaching Srimad Bhagavatam. So we have a wonderful opportunity in this temple. Only immersion in Srimad Bhagavatam, immersion, not just superficial reading, only immersion in Srimad Bhagavatam will give us Ante Narayana Smriti. Because we have to know tons and tons about Narayana to be able to think about him. We have to be constantly in that consciousness. In fact, I told you also, I don't know whether you are coming or not for that.
Next week,
Huh?
I thought I'll start from
Next week. Next month. Okay. Good for the baby also. Okay. So Ante Narayana Smriti, constant Shravanam will only lead to that dasha. That's what Bhakti Vinod Thakur mentions. Remember last time I told about my essay. Only if we hear Srimad Bhagavatam continuously will we be able to remember the God, Bhagavan at the time of death. Otherwise it's not easy. Otherwise we'll have to rely on causeless mercy, that our son will become a saintly personality and become Paramahams, Prabhupada's servant, like that. So such people also get such mercies. But not everyone is going to get such mercy. For us, because we have already been provided such a nice facility, so we should utilize that and immerse in Srimad Bhagavatam. By studying Srimad Bhagavatam, by Bhagavad Gita study, yes, we become aware of spiritual subject matters. That we are spirit, we are not body. We become aware of the processes of bhakti by studying Bhagavad Gita. But by studying Srimad Bhagavatam, actually our anarthas go away. Our anarthas go away. Or even if they are not going away, we don't remain shameless. That Srimad Bhagavatam will guarantee. That we don't remain shameless in life. That ऐसे ही बस हल्का फुल्का ले लिया, कभी कुछ किया कभी नहीं किया, कभी क्लास में आया कभी नहीं आया, और चल रहा है, something you just take it as चलता है, and then we joke about it. So, no, because suppose we are told we are going to die in 7 days, will we take it easy? Obviously not. We will not take it easy. We will not say हाँ चलता है अभी, बाद में देखते हैं. Not like that. So it will bring us that it constantly reminds us about death. It constantly inspires us to the charitra of senior devotees, great personalities, and especially the 9th canto hammers us about sex desire. It hammers us till we, you start thinking, abhi aur mat maro. Samajh gaya. Again it will hammer. And then it prepares you to enter the 10th canto. Because it says, nashta paraya khatam. If desire is over, then only you can understand Leela Sabdana. Till the time that is going on, we can still get some purification because we are chanting and all, but serious entrance, pravesh, Leela pravesh will not happen. Till we are able to say no to the senses. Prabhupada is saying here, what is that? Again, the famous statement. Sacrifice means denying the interest of the senses. Say, okay, no, stop, and then immediately engaging somewhere else. Not getting grumpy. Everyone is angry with myself because I've denied. Engaging. Srimad Bhagavatam gives that motivation. Okay, let's do mantra 18. Oh my Lord, as powerful as fire, O omnipotent one, now I offer you all my obeisances, falling on the ground at your feet. O my Lord, please lead me on the right path to reach you. And since you know all that I have done in the past, please free me from the reactions to my past sins, so that there will be no hindrance to my progress. In fact, I wouldn't call this as a key memory verse, but this is a prayer. Every day, if we can actually, this is not a key memory verse of Ishopanishad for the course, but is it not a nice prayer to say daily to the Lord? Oh Lord, oh powerful one, please lead me on the right path to reach you. And since you know all that I have done in the past, please free me from the reactions of my past sins, so there will be no hindrance to my progress. Because every day there are so many hindrances to our progress. Most of the hindrances come because of Vaishnava aparadhas that we commit. So it's a good prayer to say every day, even if it is not a key memory verse. Let's see what Prabhupada is advising us.
By surrendering to the Lord and praying. By surrendering to the Lord and praying for His causeless mercy, the devotee.
This is the best you can do. ठीक है. Ojas Prabhu has come late from office and he has not informed you. You have cooked for him so many dishes. Office में किसने तो खिलाया, उनको खा के आए हैं वहाँ से. आपको बताया तक नहीं उन्होंने. इतना इरिटेट किया है आपको. Now read.
The devotee can progress.
ये सच है या नहीं? ऐसा हो रहा आवाज.
Very humble.
The devotee can progress on the path of complete self-realization.
पता है you are really. इतना सहनशीलता है. चलिए क्या? I tried my best to incite you, but नहीं हो पाया.
The Lord is addressed as fire because He can burn anything into ashes, including the sins of the surrendered soul. As described in the previous mantra, the real or ultimate aspect of the Absolute is His feature as the personality of God, and His impersonal Brahmajyoti feature is a dazzling cover over His face. Fruitive actions or the Karmakanda path of self-realization is the lowest stage in this endeavor. As soon as such activities even slightly deviate from the regulative principles of the Vedas, they are transformed into vikarma, or acts against the interest of the actor. Such vikarma is enacted by the illusioned living entity simply for sense gratification, and thus such activities become hindrances on the path of self-realization. Self-realization is possible in the human form of life, but not in other forms. There are 8.4 million species or forms of life, of which the human form qualified by Brahmanical culture presents the only chance to obtain knowledge of transcendence. Brahmanical culture includes truthfulness, sense control, forbearance, simplicity, full knowledge and full faith in God. It is not that one simply becomes proud of his high parentage. Just as being born the son of a big man affords one a chance to become a big man, so being born the son of a Brahmana gives one a chance to become a Brahmana. But such a birthright is not everything, for one still has to attain the Brahmanical qualifications for himself. As soon as one becomes proud of his birth as the son of a Brahmana and neglects to acquire the qualifications of a real Brahmana, he at once becomes degraded and falls from the path of self-realization. Thus, his life's mission as a human being is defeated. In the Bhagavad Gita 6.41.42, we are assured by the Lord that the yoga brahstas or souls falling from the path of self-realization are given a chance to rectify themselves by taking birth either in the families of good brahmanas or in the families of rich merchants. Such births afford higher chances for self-realization. If these chances are misused due to illusion, one loses the good opportunity of human life afforded by the Almighty Lord. The regulative principles are such that one who follows them is promoted from the platform of fruitive activities to the platform of transcendental knowledge. After many lifetimes of cultivating transcendental knowledge, one becomes perfect when he surrenders unto the Lord. This is the general procedure. But one who surrenders at the very beginning, as recommended in this mantra, at once surpasses all preliminary stages simply by adopting the devotional attitude. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 18.66, the Lord at once takes charge of such a surrendered soul and frees him from all the reactions to his sinful acts. There are many sinful reactions involved in karma kanda activities, where in Jnana Kanda, the path of philosophical development, the number of such sinful activities is smaller. But in devotional service to the Lord, the path of bhakti, there is practically no chance of incurring sinful reactions. One who is a devotee of the Lord attains all the good qualifications of the Lord himself. What to speak of those of a Brahmana? A devotee automatically attains the qualifications of an expert Brahmana authorized to perform sacrifices, even though the devotee may not have taken his birth in a Brahmana family. Such is the omnipotence of the Lord. He can make a man born in a Brahmana family as degraded as a low-born dog-eater, and he can also make a low-born dog-eater superior to a qualified Brahmana simply on the strength of devotional service. Since the omnipotent Lord is situated within the heart of everyone, he can give directions to his sincere devotees by which they can attain the right path. Such directions are especially offered to the devotee even if he desires something else. As far as others are concerned, God gives sanction to the doer only at the risk of the doer. But in the case of a devotee, the Lord directs him in such a way that he never acts wrongly. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.42 says, "The Lord is so kind to the devotee who is fully surrendered to his lotus feet, that even though the devotee sometimes falls into the entanglement of vikarma, acts against the Vedic directions, the Lord at once rectifies such mistakes from within his heart. This is because the devotees are very dear to the Lord." In this mantra of Sri Ishopanishad, the devotee prays to the Lord to rectify him from within his heart. To err is human. A conditioned soul is very often apt to commit mistakes, and the only remedial measures to take against such unintentional sins is to give oneself up to the lotus feet of the Lord, so that he may guide one to avoid such pitfalls. The Lord takes charge of fully surrendered souls. Thus, all problems are solved simply by surrendering oneself unto the Lord and acting in terms of His directions. Such directions are given to the sincere devotee in two ways. One is by way of the saints, scriptures and spiritual master, and the other is by way of the Lord Himself, who resides within the heart of everyone. Thus the devotee, fully enlightened with Vedic knowledge, is protected in all respects. Vedic knowledge is transcendental and cannot be understood by mundane educational procedures. One can understand the Vedic mantras only by the grace of the Lord and the spiritual master. If one takes shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, it is to be understood that he has obtained the grace of the Lord. The Lord appears as the spiritual master for the devotee. Thus the spiritual master, the Vedic injunctions and the Lord Himself from within all guide the devotee in full strength. In this way, there is no chance for a devotee to fall again into the mire of material illusion. The devotee, thus protected all around, is sure to reach the ultimate destination of perfection. The entire process is hinted at in this mantra, and Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.17-20 explains it further. Hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord is itself an act of piety. The Lord wants everyone to hear and chant His glories because He is the well-wisher of all living entities. By hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, one becomes cleansed of all undesirable things, and then one's devotion becomes fixed upon the Lord. At this stage, the devotee acquires the Brahmanical qualifications and the effects of the lower modes of nature, passion and ignorance completely vanish. The devotee becomes fully enlightened by virtue of his devotional service, and thus he comes to know the path of the Lord and the ways to attain Him. As all doubts diminish, he becomes a pure devotee.
Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport to Sri Upanishad, the knowledge that brings one nearer to Supreme Personality of God, Krishna. Okay, so what is the point here?
Bhakti Shastri.
Still there is time. You can say it after 20 minutes. Yeah. What are the points? Tell me from realization. Because the points which are mentioned in Upanishad is not something which you are hearing first time.
Yes.
That is why we are discussing realizations. Nobody is going to say, "No, we are not the body." But how are you relating to what is Prabhupada inspiring you from these purports to do? That is what we want to discuss. Every purport is like that. What does it mean to me? What is inspiring me to do now? By hearing and chanting, one becomes cleansed of all undesirable things. Comes the lower modes behind. Yeah.
What happens is when practicing Bhakti Yoga, initially we come to know good things, bad things, karma, vikarma and all these things. A lot of knowledge goes in. And then when we are practicing, of course, the purity is not there. And then slowly the fear also comes. I'm not doing it seriously, I'm not doing it sincerely, which is good in one way. But if it becomes too much dominant, then it becomes bad for the practice. So by reading this and by whatever has been explained, the assurance has been given that the path is sure shot, and the path is foolproof. If somebody is practicing and trying sincerely, then the qualities will be provided by Krishna and all those things will be arranged. We should not worry too much about the shortcomings. They are to be taken care of.
Yeah.
They shouldn't become too big.
Yeah.
And that guarantee or that surety helps to keep the faith firm and steady, and helps to keep on progressing. Otherwise, it may be difficult.
Nice. Good reading. Yeah. So, Gaurang Prabhu in one class, I can't remember, a few years back I heard, he talks about the difference between humility and inferiority complex. On one hand, both seem similar, humility and inferiority complex. Feeling humble in front of other devotees, or developing an inferiority complex by seeing other devotees achieve things. With humility, one will never get inferiority complex, because one will genuinely feel inferior. So,
one will genuinely
feel inferior and be happy in feeling inferior. If one feels sad in being inferior, then it is inferiority complex. If one is happy in being inferior, then that is humility. Humility can never make anyone sad. In fact, humility is the only one by which we will be perpetually happy. Because humility will bring tears of gratitude in our eyes. Humility and gratitude. When will you be humble? What is humility? Humility means that whatever I am is surviving is because of everyone else. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada.
yeah.